How's it going, everyone? I'm recording this part a few days after I made this episode, just to inform you that I am working on improving these videos. Seeing as I think of this as a podcast, I tend to talk about a selection of things, and this episode is no exception. I've also made an intro and an outro for this series, and I do have plans to improve the format of these further. I want to start doing like a Q&A segment towards the end, and so if you leave me some questions, I'll be able to answer them next week. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Drawn to Create. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Drawn to Create, the podcast where I draw and talk. We talk about anything, and recently we've been pretty much drawing anything. I haven't really planned on anything to talk about specifically in this episode, but I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to jump into this, and it's probably going to be one of those episodes where it's more like a general discussion. In terms of what I'm actually going to be drawing, again, it's just something random that I'm creating here, but I do have plans to sort of develop some kind of a project within these episodes. So because I'm doing a lot of drawing within these episodes, I'm going to use it as an opportunity to create drawings that have sort of like a narrative behind them. I do have the intention of trying to develop some kind of story that is presented through all of these images, and then once I post the images on Instagram and stuff, I can sort of tell that story and you can follow along, and I'll probably discuss my ideas in a later episode because they're kind of strange, but I want to do something that's a bit different that hasn't really been done before. And then I'm also thinking about how I can use the drawings in a video format as well. So I'm going to be presenting the process of creating these drawings in a unique way, because I think there's a lot of opportunity in how I share my process with you. And in terms of the process of actually drawing, it doesn't just stop and end with the drawing. I mean, there's a lot that plays into it beforehand, that inspires me and that influences my work, everything really, like things like music, my experiences in life, whether they are good or bad, because you know how it is, life in general. I mean, it isn't just all good, there is a lot of bad as well, and so we can actually not only learn from the bad stuff, but sort of take stuff away from them, especially being an artist. A lot of the situations you go through in life can have a big influence on your work. And so, I'm going to be presenting the drawings that I create through a series of videos, hopefully some type of process video where I'm sort of like, it's hard to explain. It's probably best for me just to show you, and that's like with anything that I do. I always have trouble explaining what I'm trying to say. I prefer just to do it and then let the work speak for itself. It's quite funny because that's how I approached university in a way. When I was on the architecture course, a lot of my mates would just go up and present really well, and they'd really be good at articulating their message and explaining their design, and that's a skill in itself, but I've never really been that good at communicating. I suppose I'm quite introverted in it. It's a bit of a challenge for me to even record these, I mean, it's not exactly something that I look forward to every Monday morning when I usually try and sit down and record one of these. But prior to recording this, I have recorded some tutorials, and so they'll be up on the channel soon. But back to what I was saying just a second ago, when I was going through the architecture course at university and it came to presenting my work, I would always try and double down on the visualization, to try and make up for the sort of the bad verbal presentation, if you know what I mean. So I'd try and make a lot of the work just speak for itself. And there was some presentations that I did where I was stood up there with my work talking to the class and to the tutors, and I'd more or less just end early and then point towards the presentation board as if to say, that's it, the work says it all, just look at that. But eventually over 3 years I got better at communicating, and I think it actually helped me a lot. I think they both worked quite well, doing YouTube and doing the architecture stuff at uni, because verbal presentation is important, and it's important in both of these fields. So I was recording narration for videos that I was making on YouTube, and then I'd go to uni and I'd be stood up trying to communicate my work to an audience and get the message and the point across that way. And so, I think I was doing it quite a lot, and so it did help me improve a bit. I mean, prior to doing university and YouTube, I was quite a quiet person. I was always just sort of keeping to myself. I think because I never used to be like that. When I was in primary school and when I was a lot younger, I used to be quite outgoing. I didn't really like, I was a lot more sociable and open to meeting new people. But then as I got a bit older and I started going into secondary school, I sort of gravitated towards my group of friends that shared, interests and stuff. And I sort of was a bit closed off in terms of meeting other people because, like, in primary school, there is a class of like 20 people, and then you get into secondary school and all of a sudden it's in the hundreds. That's a lot of people to deal with. And so, yeah, it's like in primary school, you know everyone and most people know you because there isn't a lot of people, even all of the teachers and stuff. But then you get into secondary school and there's a lot more people, and then all of a sudden, it's kind of like it's like a fish going from a pond to the ocean, right? So all of a sudden you're dealing with all of these new people who are all different in their own way. And it's good in a way because you sort of gravitate to a group of people that you can associate with better. So they have the same interests as you and stuff. And yeah, that's probably, well, that happens in secondary school. You get different groups of individuals who create some kind of a reputation for themselves. I mean, we all know the stereotypes, which are quite funny, and usually you end up just gravitating towards people who you associate with better. I mean, I just developed a group of friends that I could relate to more. We shared the same interests and stuff, and so that's pretty much how it plays out. But yeah, it's a weird time in a person's life when they are still developing as a human being, I suppose. They don't really understand themselves that much. And I still think, like, there's a lot of people out there that don't really understand themselves, and so they're just constantly, I don't know, maybe a lot of their actions are as a result of that. I still feel like I'm trying to figure out what it is that I really want to do and if I'm doing the right thing. It's not necessarily that I don't enjoy doing what I do, it's more or less just questioning whether there is anything better out there or whether what I'm doing now is the right thing that I should be doing, because we don't know. We only know in retrospect later on as we look back and reflect on life and hope that we did it pretty well. That's the only thing that I really want to do, is just do something that I'm pretty proud of, and that's kind of that is what I'm doing. I'm pretty much trying to pursue full-time art in my 20s, which is challenging, but I'm learning all of these new things and I'm really going for it. And it's kind of a double-edged sword because there's a lot of struggle involved. Like, it takes a lot of sacrifice and stuff, but I kind of like that adversary that comes with it, because that develops you as a person as well. And so you learn more about yourself as you are trying to pursue something with meaning and that's also challenging. And that's what I'm really I think that's what I'm attracted to as well, and that's why drawing is appealing to me as a whole, because it's no easy feat, it's not an easy skill to master, and so it's something that you can work on every day, and over time the practice and the dedication will compound and you'll get better. And I just like the idea of consistent development. And I actually want to do a full episode just talking a bit about sort of like the struggles with what it is that I'm doing right now. But I don't want it to come across as if it's an episode where I'm just complaining, because I'm not at all. Like, I have an opportunity right now. I have time in my 20s to not to waste, but to use, and to sort of, take on all of that burden and that struggle. I'm able to do that because I don't have well, to some extent, I don't have a lot of responsibilities. I don't have a family or anything. It's not like I'm trying to do this in my late 30s or anything. And so that's sort of like how I'm going to approach this, I think, because time is the most valuable thing. You can't put monetary value on time because it's something that once it's gone, it's gone. And so I just want to make sure that I'm using it in the right way. And that's going to be different for everybody. But the way that I'm looking at it is, if I sort of sacrifice a lot of time now and try and build all of this and try and really pursue this drawing stuff, then maybe I'll be able to enjoy time more in the future, right? I would much rather be struggling a bit in terms of like the workload and, even like in terms of lifestyle. I'm definitely not like spending a lot of money all of the time and stuff, because I've got my savings which are there as like that's that money that I'm saving up is like an enabler. It sort of enables me to try and do all of this YouTube stuff and the Patreon and my drawing. And to be honest, I don't really care about a lot of the stuff that money can buy, as long as it can, again, support what it is that I like to do, the drawing stuff and that. I mean, I sometimes I feel like I'd just be happy with a 1-bedroom, like literally one room, and then a desk and some drawing equipment, and I feel like I'll be good to go, And that might sound like a bit stupid. Obviously, you need money to be healthy and to live, to buy food, bills, all of that stuff. But yeah, like I was saying, seeing as I am only 23, which is kind of young, it is. I feel sometimes like it's going quickly, but hopefully, whilst I'm in my early 20s, I can sort of take a bit of time, to work out what it is that I want to do and get my shit together and figure stuff out. I really don't think there needs to be as much pressure as there sometimes might seem to be. It's all just about, I'd rather be heading in the right direction and taking a long time to get there rather than just jumping into something like, I mean, I could have easily just finished uni and found a job at an architect's office or something. But I don't just want to jump into all of that stuff right away, I sometimes get quite concerned or anxious about how permanent a lot of these decisions are. If I did just finish university and then jump into a 9 to 5 job at an office, it kind of, I know that, I don't know, but well, I suppose I'm just having a year out, because a lot of people finish university and they go travelling for a long time. They just have a break before they get into all of that stuff, and so that's kind of what I'm doing, except I'm not having a year out travelling. I'm just having a year or so doing YouTube and making drawings and all of that stuff, and who knows where it's going to go. If it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't matter, and if it goes somewhere, then I'll just ride the wave for as long as I can, right? And take it as it goes. But I'm full of ideas. Sometimes it's quite overwhelming because I have all of these ideas and things that I want to do, but there's only like one of me, and so sometimes I'm sort of a bit ambitious with what I want to do, and then it comes to doing it and I'm like, I could maybe this isn't going to sort of pay off the time that it takes to do it and the result of it. In the long run it probably will, but seeing as I am sort of trying to, I am on sort of not like a deadline, but I don't have all the time in the world to pursue all of that stuff, so yeah, like I want to start making some more videos on the second channel which I created, Dan Creates, and I'm like halfway through 2 videos for that, and I've just been meaning to finish it, but since I've started doing these and the Patreon videos, the exclusive tutorials over on Patreon, and then I also try and do another video every week. I've been uploading a lot on this channel, and I'm trying to keep the consistent uploads going, and so it's hard to find the time where I can just finish off those videos. But I do feel like if I did, then they'd probably end up, getting a lot of attention later on. because YouTube, like doing YouTube, it's a long process. You don't just put out one video and then build a YouTube channel, or at least, I mean, there might be some exceptions, but a lot of the time it takes a lot of time where you're just not even getting anything from it. It starts off as just like a hobby. You're doing it out of the love of doing it, and that's exactly what I was doing. And then all of a sudden you sort of build a small little audience and you can start getting a bit of revenue from it. It's not a lot, depending on how many views you get, but it's sort of like I'd probably still be doing YouTube even if I wasn't getting any revenue from it. And I don't really get that much, to be honest. That's why I've started the Patreon as well. And so if you're listening to this and you have gone over onto the Patreon page, then thank you for your support over on there. I am working on doing some pretty good quality tutorials on there as well. So if you haven't checked it out, then go ahead and have a look. But just you watching this video and spending time with me today is enough for me. Like, I'm grateful to even have any audience. And I actually posted a comment on the last video that I made the other day, the how to draw from your imagination advice from experience video. I posted a comment to you all saying thanks for 250 subscribers, and I said that like I'm very grateful for having an audience who shares the same passion for drawing, because there isn't a lot of people that I know in my life who I can't really name anyone, to be honest, who I hang around with who enjoys drawing or enjoys creating. That's crazy actually, because I've just I've just thought about it, and there really isn't. Nobody comes to mind who I hang around with who sort of does what it is that I'm doing, or at least even draws or creates or anything like that. I mean, there are people and friends who appreciate all of this stuff, but they don't do it themselves, and so to have like a community where I'm sort of able to be more involved in this sort of the environment where drawing is a main like priority, it's good because it encourages me to learn, and I'm also able to like communicate with you on these videos, and so it's good. But if you want to like ask me any questions or anything, then feel free to comment down below, because I'm going to be doing like a Q&A segment in these videos where towards the end of them I just answer some of your questions. I think actually in the last episode I asked you to leave some questions as well, and I was like, ask me anything, you can even ask me what sandwich I like and stuff, and I was joking, but then like 3 of you went ahead and asked me what my favourite sandwich is, so I'm going to answer that question. My favourite sandwich, well, I don't know, to be honest, I don't even know why I put that idea out there, because I don't really eat a lot of sandwiches. I mean, I'm easy, I'll go for anything, but if I was going to pick one, I eat a lot of tuna, so I guess it could be a tuna sandwich, and I know there's probably some of you listening right now who are sat there in disgust and are probably disliking this video because, you have a hatred for tuna. But it's nothing personal, okay, so don't worry too much about it. If you could give this video a like, that'd be much appreciated. But anyways, I'm trying to sort of think of a segue to get out of this sort of situation where I'm talking about sandwiches. Again, I said at the beginning of this video, I didn't really have anything planned for this episode. It's literally just an episode of me rambling about anything. I don't even know what I'm going to title this. But the reason why I didn't really have anything planned was because, like I said earlier, things are getting on top of me a bit, especially this week, because last weekend I went away. I went to Amsterdam for my friend's stag do. He's getting married, and so I went there with a few friends, and that's a crazy place. But then I've just come back and realised that I have to like catch up on a few things that I missed out on, because usually I work on like some kind of a schedule, and obviously I missed 2 days, and so I need to catch up on a few things. I didn't really have time to plan anything specific for one of these. It's literally just me talking and going on about anything, and I'm sort of staring at the time. I'm like, 20 minutes in, okay, we've got about 10 more minutes to go. But yeah, I think like I'm going to improve these episodes a bit. Obviously, some of you have said that you want the audio link so you can just listen to them, and I'm going to be putting them on SoundCloud. And then I think, because I looked into it, I think from SoundCloud you are then able to upload it onto iTunes, and so I'll try and do that. But again, I kind of like this just to be on YouTube as well, because not only is the drawing playing in the background, and I'm not sure if any of you actually watch that. I know that some of you have said that you sort of enjoy listening to these whilst you are working and drawing yourself, and so that's good. I'm glad that you are listening to these whilst you are working, because that's what I do. I mean, when it comes to podcasts, I usually just have them on in the background whilst I'm drawing, or I'm listening to music or something. Sometimes I listen to audiobooks, but I don't do that as often, because I always seem to, when it comes to a podcast, you can sort of switch off a little bit whilst you are drawing as well, so you're concentrating on the drawing. But when you're listening to an audiobook, it takes a bit more concentration, and I feel like, I can't divide my attention up 50-50. It needs to be like a good, 80-20, or probably like 70% drawing and then 30% attention on the podcast. But a podcast just goes in and out. It doesn't really matter. But a book, you sort of have to like consume it a bit more, and it takes a bit more work. Whereas if you miss a chapter, then you're pretty much screwed. There's no point listening to the book anymore. But yeah, I listen to quite a lot of podcasts, the usual. I sometimes listen to Joe Rogan. There's other comedians' podcasts that I listen to. Sometimes there's a good art one as well that I've been listening to for a long time now. It's called Art Cafe. You can listen to it on YouTube, and it's this dude called Myrberg. He sort of like gets a load of concept artists on and people who are working in the industry, and obviously if you are taking advice from them, then it's going to benefit you, because they're people who are experienced. And so I really recommend that podcast. It's good, and he has loads of interesting people on, and yeah, I know quite a bit about like concept art because of that podcast. Like, there was a time where I think I was halfway through my architecture course, and I was like, shit, did I make the right decision? Like, should I have gone into games design? Because some of the stuff that these people are talking about sounds really good, and I'm sat here trying to, work on AutoCAD or something. But I feel like all of these different creative fields and stuff, there's no like, obviously you'll learn a skill, but there's no limit to it. You can always build on the skills that you learn, and I think that even having an understanding of architecture would be useful when it came to concept art. Obviously, a full degree in architecture is a bit overboard when you are just painting buildings, but obviously it's probably going to be useful in a way. I think that, like I said in one of the previous videos that I did, the more you know about something, the easier it is to draw it. And then it kind of complements each other, because I always find that when I'm drawing something, I'm also learning about it visually, because I'm taking a lot of time studying it, and if I'm working from a reference image, I'm sort of looking at what it is that I'm drawing. Sometimes when it comes to realistic drawing, you're not really looking at the subject, you're just looking at the textures that you are having to produce. But if you spend your time improving your visual library, like I spoke about, then obviously you are drawing something on various angles, and you are you're studying the object you are drawing, and you're paying more attention to it. And so drawing is a great way to learn, and obviously that's been proven with artists throughout the centuries. Leonardo da Vinci, he used to like draw pretty much everything. He used to like cut people open and draw and study that way, which is pretty insane. I mean, Some of you ask me if I'm going to start the anatomy videos again, and yeah, I will get to that eventually after I'm done with all of the perspective stuff. But I mean, when it comes to the anatomy stuff, get ready for a new video where I'm cutting open a body on screen and showing you the ins and outs of the human body, you know. I mean, that would be a pretty interesting video, but that's probably what they'd do back then if they had video cameras and YouTube was a thing back then. I wonder if Leonardo da Vinci would be on YouTube. Probably not. He probably would dislike YouTube. Or who knows, maybe he'd be the opposite. What if, like, he had a YouTube channel with all of these crazy videos where he has all of these, like, clickbait titles and thumbnails of all of his inventions, except it's funny because none of those would be misleading. Like, flying machine travels 10 miles is one of his titles, and then someone clicks on the video and they're actually not disappointed because Leonardo da Vinci has invented a flying machine. It's kind of weird to, like, imagine if all of these famous artists had all of this, like, all of the tools and resources that we have today. If YouTube was a thing back then. I mean, like, Picasso. What would Picasso do? I think, like, that guy would be... I reckon he'd start a YouTube channel, like, doing something that's really successful, vlogging or something. Imagine Picasso vlogging. But then, like, all of a sudden he'd get to, like... and he'd just stop uploading all of the content he was known for, and then he'd be doing something really abstract and different, you know, kind of like what he did with his artwork over the years. Like, he started off creating all of those crazy realistic paintings, and then all of a sudden he started transitioning into the more experimental stuff and the abstract stuff that he's famous for now. He wanted to recapture that raw and honest sort of sense that a child has when they create artwork, you know, with their free imagination that isn't affected by any of the cultural norms or the sort of standards and pressures that we put on ourselves as more developing artists. That's quite an interesting subject, actually, that I could get into in another episode. I might talk a bit about that stuff, about children's drawings, and, you know, because it always sort of fascinated me how every child starts out drawing and then, you know, people stop drawing at a certain age, and then there is other people who carry it on. Yeah, I'll probably do an episode on that because we're coming up to the 30-minute mark now, and this is when I usually end the episode. You know, I've been contemplating whether I want to make these episodes longer, but in all honesty, guys, I don't think I have it in me. Like, this is quite challenging for me to do these, and sometimes I'm always, like, questioning whether I should record a lot of them, because I just put them out there and I'm like, oh, nobody wants to hear me talk about all of this stuff. Like, why do people care? But that's just sort of like my own self-doubt, which I'm sort of battling against. But with each episode, with each week, if I can keep on top of this, I'll hopefully improve. And with your support and you watching, then you know, it will encourage me to keep it up. Also, if you want to check out the videos which I've created on the Patreon page, there's a link in the description. I'm going to be improving these episodes. I'm probably going to work on creating some kind of an intro today for these, or an outro, or both. And then I think I'm going to do that Q&A segment again, and I want to make them more YouTube friendly in a sense, you know, because this is in the format of a video, but it's really more or less audio based. But you can consume them in any way, really. There isn't one way to watch these. But again, yeah, I suppose today I just talked about everything, really. I didn't really stick to one thing, but that's the beauty of it, right? That's why this podcast is about, because it gives me a chance just to be myself and talk to you and actually connect with you as an audience a bit better, and hopefully you are enjoying these, and obviously I'll work on improving them. I have some exciting stuff coming. I want to start focusing a bit more on colouring my artwork, along with like some other videos that I spoke about at the beginning. just sort of trying to document my process a bit more and come up with an original idea that allows me to do that. But yeah, that's pretty much everything for this one. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, then please leave a like, and I will see you in the next one.